The next step is that we want to compare the diagnosis codes between what is in MD Office and what is in Pulse. So to do that, you need a different report. And you want to go to 0259, Patient's Insurance Claim Details. Now, finding out the right criteria here is relatively important. Again, we have the same issue with including the right diagnoses codes or the right J codes. And this may be changing because we've inactivated some of these and we'd be able to reduce what we have. Now, you want to go all the ones, open ones. You want to base it by service date, not by claim entered or entered dates. You want to go, again, from the 9th to the 15th. Now, this is the important thing. You want to say export to Excel only. Sort by date of service is not important. And then we're going to want to preview. Now, it says export to Excel only, but it actually gives you the same view that you have everywhere else. What changes on this one is when you say export to Excel only, it will give us multiple ICD-10 codes while the other ones just give us one. So again, we want to export this just like we have the other ones. And I have found this one to be the usual level of bulkiness to export. For the purposes of this, I've already exported and opened the spreadsheet, and here it is. I've also trimmed out a lot of the garbage, leaving only the name, the account number, the service date, the provider, the location, CPT code, and then the CPT description, ICD-10s. Again, we want to do the same sorting stuff, and we can sort this whole thing to strip out some of the garbage that's in here. And again, we want to sort by the column F, which is the CPT code. And then alphabetize by column A. Now we get a bunch of stuff. This is all unnecessary. And old anal me will just remove that. We have the two kinds of Avastin that we're going to want to sort together. So again, sort this by column A, which will then create one Avastin for everything. The Lucentices are already together, and you have your ILEA. So we'll go ahead and save this. And we'll say edit. Now, we want to do what we did before and combine that into the previous combined one that we have over here, where we have procedures by patient, by service date. This is the spreadsheet we were working on before. So we can collapse this a bit to help get things on the same screen. We want the patient's name. We don't necessarily want their date of service. I want to give us a little room over here on this side. So now on the right side, this is the new spreadsheet. These ones are all the alias. And so we want to copy and paste these onto here. Thankfully, they all match up. The two Vabismos. Then we have our Lucentises. And they all seem to match up quite nicely. And then the last but not least is our Avastins. So now we have everything together on one spreadsheet. We do not need that one anymore. We're going to make this full size so we can look at it. And in column Z, we have a set of ICD-10 codes. Now, critically, we have more than one per column. And in column O, we also have a set of ICD-10 codes. And we can then hide these these columns and put those all right next to each other. Now, I do not have yet a way of comparing these unless we go one by one visually, which is not very accurate. But if you put them together, then you can put them next to each other. So to shortcut things, I have actually gone through and run through this spreadsheet and found some differences in here, some of which are important and some of which are not. And we can potentially go through them. But if I hide a couple rows here, we can see a little bit more on this side. And you see when you run down, then this patient in Pulse has age-related macular degeneration, while in MD Office, he has diabetic retinopathy. So this is obviously an error, and this now is useful to us. On this case, where we have the bilateral code here and we have unilateral codes, that's worth some investigation to determine whether or not that is something that needs to be switched. But the preferential one in Pulse will always be the bilateral code. So we want to keep that if at all possible. Here's a situation where we have a unilateral code in Pulse and a bilateral code in MD Office, and that one we may want to change. I should change this color potentially to something that we're going to edit. So I am calling the ones with the pink background something we potentially want to change, while the ones with the green background are things we don't necessarily need to change. And yellow ones are ones we need to pull up. So again, here, this patient, we got the unilateral code in Pulse, but the bilateral code in MD Office. This is the other, down here, this green one is the other way around, where you have the bilateral code in Pulse and the unilateral code in MD Office, and we may not need to switch that. So it turns out that this is probably going to be a useful exercise, especially to capture these obvious errors. Here's another one where you have codes that are obviously very different from each other, and this probably needs to be edited. So I think we need to go through each one of these and edit Pulse. The advantage is if we get them correctly when they come in Pulse, then when they come back for subsequent visits, then we won't have to edit.